on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
All right, Vikings Vent Line. Man, we're getting closer and closer to the real damn thing. Actual Vikings football games to talk about here. What's up, everyone? Declan Goff, executive producer on Purple Daily and Score North, here to do another episode of Vikings Vent Line. We're only 2 weeks away from Week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. We're excited to have Vikings fans on with us the moment after the game ends. If you're not familiar with Vent Line, Phil Mackey, Judd Zolgad, myself, we like to welcome on Vikings fans the moment the game ends. So we're going to be ready to rock and do that here in a couple weeks, right after the Vikings hopefully finish the first week of the season strong with the win against the Green Bay Packers. So if you'd like to get in on one of those episodes, you can shoot me an email. For the YouTube audience that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now, it's vikingsventline@gmail.com if you'd like to get in on an episode. I have a couple more of these off-season ones left. I've been doing them for the last 6 months now, talking to so many Vikings fans from around the country, around the globe even. My guy Matt's going to join from the UK. Jimmy's going to join as well. So I've been talking to a lot of different Vikings fans throughout basically the world. If you'd like to get in on one of these episodes, again, vikingsventline@gmail.com before the real damn thing starts here in just a couple of weeks. If this is the first time you're discovering this Purple Daily YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment. We all just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die. Of course, we are also on Apple and Spotify. The Score North app is a central hub. There's some awards on there. There's some giveaways too. So download the Score North app for everything you need to know about Score North related programming and news. Of course, the show is presented by TCL. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL. There's plenty of different television options out there, but TCL is where it's at. Football season's coming around, so may as well upgrade your TV, right? Go get yourself a TCL TV to get ready for Viking season. And of course, Shirley Brewing, sponsoring programming as well on Ventline. Go check out the beer hall if you're in the Twin Cities. Go find yourself a Surly anywhere you can. Furious, a Logic Bomb, even tap room exclusive like I was talking about on the patio. You can go find those too. Go check it out. Proud sponsor. We love Surly Brewing. We love TCL. All right, that's the introductions on Vikings Vent Line. Let's get my guys Matt in here. Let's get Jimmy in here as well. Boys, welcome to Vikings Vent Line. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Oh,
appreciate it. Matt, I want to start with you here just for a sec before we get into some topics. You're from the UK, and you're like probably like the 10th or 12th person who has come on from the United Kingdom. So talk about how you became a Vikings fan, and why are you doing this? Like, why are you a Vikings fan to yourself?
Yeah, it's so I'm kind of closer in age to Judd than Mackie and yourself, and I started supporting the Vikings back in about 87 or 88. And it was really at the time NFL was starting to get quite big in the UK after Chicago won the Super Bowl. We had live games each week, and me and a group of buddies were kind of each looking at the teams we're going to support and everything else, and everybody was going with the kind of trendy options, the Raiders and the Dolphins and everything else, and I was kind of looking for something a bit more meaningful, with a passionate fan base and good loyal support. And I support a soccer team called West Ham, who haven't won anything in a long time, play in similar colours, and there was just kind of a lot of symmetry there. And I've been pretty mad about the Vikings ever since.
Muted, aren't I? There we go. I'm muted there. My bad.
No, sticks.
So you became a Vikings fan in the late 80s, you were saying, and that's and that's what other, I think, UK fans who have come on here have kind of said the same thing. It was around the late 80s, the TV stations and everyone else started picking them up a little bit more. So you have observed being a Vikings fan. Would you say, what's the one team in the UK that people probably support the most? Is it does it flip flop, or do you think is there one franchise that you kind of notice that the United Kingdom kind of supports more than others?
I think there's a lot of Dolphins fans out there.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that's kind of linked to the fact that they had a fairly decent side in the late 70s and 80s, and Miami Vice on TV. Lots of guys and girls from the UK go on holiday to Florida, and the Dolphins seem to kind of be a team that's picked up a lot. I don't know why. Who knows why? But the Dolphins kind of seem to trend quite a lot.
Interesting. All right, Jimmy, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So how long have you been a Vikings fan?
Pretty much since the day I was born. There's pictures of me that my mom showed me in a Vikings onesie watching the game with my dad. Obviously don't remember that far back. I'd say the earliest memory is probably 03, 04, somewhere in that range.
Nice.
Kind of the end of the Randy Moss era here the first time. So yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty much since the day I was here.
Nice.
Hanging.
Are you in Minnesota? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in St. Paul, so
Okay. Nice.
local guy, been supporting. So.
All right, look at that. So St. Paul, got UK on here. I love it. A lot of Vikings fans around the country. Every time on Vent Line, there's like someone else that comes up from somewhere I haven't been to or somewhere I haven't ever heard of, and they like to come on Vikings Vent Line. I'm a fan of it. So appreciate you guys coming on. Let's get into some topics here on Vikings Vent Line. So Kellen Mond has kind of been a little bit phased out. He had an opportunity to get that QB2 job right out of the gate. And he kind of faltered a little bit. Nice showing in the first preseason game, a little bit of a step back in the second, and just in training camps, a little bit of an up and down year in his second season in the NFL. Matt, I'll start with you. Do you think Kellen Mond makes the 53? And maybe a more broader question is, what are your overall thoughts on Kellen Mond's future with the Vikings?
I think it's still difficult to judge given that he was effectively held hostage in that first season, his rookie season. So you've really got to look at it as though this is his rookie season. And so he's in that respect, he's in the same position now as all the guys that were drafted 3-4 months ago. And there's obviously, I'm no expert, but it's clear from what all the pundits say, there's problems with his mechanics. He's a bit rigid, a bit wooden. He takes too long in making his decisions, trying to go through his reads and everything else. And I think they've really got a decision to make as to whether they think that they can kind of improve him over the next 12 months, or whether it's whether they need to kind of ditch him now and maybe look to bring in another guy as a QB3.
Did you like
Mannion's gone. So
oh yeah, I'm with you there. Did you like the acquisition of Nick Mullens at least to be like a legitimate backup to Kirk?
I did, because he looked good against us. I mean, I know it's very difficult to kind of get a good read from these preseason or exhibition games as they are really now, because you're basically playing your reserves. But he seemed okay. He seemed decent. His record suggests that he could manage you through a handful of games if Kirk goes down, which is unlikely. But they had to do something.
Agreed. Jimmy, how about you, man? What do you think of the whole Kellen Mond's future with the Vikings? Your thoughts on Nick Mullens too? What do you think, buddy?
I mean, I'm out, man. There's a shelf life for quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a 3rd-round pick. There's not that 5th-year option. And, with the direction the Vikings are going, for me, it doesn't make sense. I think we could cut both Mond and Mannion going to the season with 2 quarterbacks. You'll probably have a guy on the practice squad if worst comes to worst, but, it's hard to see the development there. He's just taking up a roster spot for another fringe guy where we have a defense that looks solid, but, there's concerns with health. In a system where we're going to be focusing heavily on the offense, you can really never have too many skill position guys. So I just feel like we're better off without him and Mannion. Get a fringe guy that could be cut and keep him around instead, and go from there. In regards to Nick Mullens, it's just nice to have someone who can throw the ball. I think you guys are actually talking about it on the show the other day. The way he pushes the ball downfield, and I'd rather have a guy, if Kirk is out, I just want a guy who's going to take shots, If he's willing to push the ball, even if it's not pretty, at least you have a fighting chance putting it in the hands of, Thielen, Cook, JJ, the rest of the guys. I'm glad if, Kirk does, hopefully he's fine, but if we get to that scenario, we have a guy who, what does he have to play for? He's just going to take his shots and try and put something good out there. So I was definitely happy with that.
Yeah, I just think that's all you can ask for. If like a guy like Nick Mullens can step in, if Kirk misses like 3 to 4 games, are you completely ruined? And now if Kirk misses extended periods of times, like if he got lost for the season early on, then yes, like it's going to be a bad situation. But if he misses a game or two, can Nick Mullens step in and at least run that offense? And he has experience, stepping in a pinch and winning some games and putting up some big numbers. He's certainly not a QB1 necessarily on most NFL franchises, but you feel comfortable, you feel okay that if he has to come into a game, that he at least can run the offense, to your point, get guys get playmakers the football, and he knows how to read a defense and all that stuff. And, for Kellen Mond, I think there was some excitement initially when he was drafted. And then, to Matt's point, he was kind of held hostage under Mike Zimmer because he didn't really like the pick necessarily. And, it kind of set him back a little bit. Whether, I don't know how much last year of him kind of being in the shadows really hindered him from being a legitimate NFL quarterback or just a backup quarterback. But, if he's going to take up a roster spot, I would rather, to Jimmy's kind of point of making sure all your skill position guys are there as well, I'd rather have the viable, legitimate quarterback option in Nick Mullens behind Kirk if Kirk obviously misses a significant amount of time. Kind of impromptu right here. Are you guys on the belief that Kirk Cousins can kind of take this next step under Kevin O'Connell's offense? There's something to be unlocked a little bit. Matt, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, I think we all know that Kirk is a very good quarterback, but the problem is, and has always been with his career to date, is that he doesn't seem to kind of drive his team on. There's kind of some, leadership issues there, I think, and the stats seem to suggest that he fades at the end of the second half and at the end of games, and I think that they're gonna come up with some real creative ideas about ways that they can kind of maximize Kirk and his output, and with all the weapons that he's got around him, there's no reason why that shouldn't be an upgrade. We should be top 5 offense next year.
Absolutely. Jimmy, what do you think, man? What do you think about Kirk under Kevin O'Connell?
For me, I think it all just comes down to, obviously he has a physical skill set. Oh, dog's freaking out.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, she's a protector. But yeah, so when it comes to Kirk, the physical skill set's there. He's just got to get to a level where he's comfortable in the system, and hopefully O'Connell's scheme can get him to that point where he doesn't even have to worry about the intangible side of things and really focus on all that. If the system's working well, guys are going to be open, and he's just got to let his physical skills, do the rest of the work. Absolutely.
Transition to the offensive line. So obviously, they're going to roll with Garrett Bradbury. They didn't want to bring in J.C. Treader. This has kind of been the revolving door on their right guard situation, trying to find a legitimate center, to not be a complete liability like Garrett Bradbury has been for the Vikings since he essentially was drafted in the first round. So do you feel, Matt, I'll go to you here. Do you feel that the Vikings maybe missed their chance to address this center position? Like, I kind of feel like it was a big gamble by Kwesi to roll with Garrett Bradbury as, hey, we don't really need an upgrade. Maybe Austin Schlottman pushes him, but who really knows? What are your kind of thoughts on the center position for the Vikings this year?
Yeah, I think that they've kind of missed the boat, really. If they were going to make a move for a center, which they should have done, it had to be early, probably in free agency. If not, they had to go after, I can't remember the guy's name. Was it Tyler Linderbaum? But again, there's a kind of similar issue there with size and everything else. I think that while they've missed the boat, I think that Bradbury will be an improvement this year on last season. I think that, adding a bit of extra weight, having what appears to be a very competent player alongside him in Ed Ingram, and Ezra Cleveland, who's obviously continuing to develop, I think that's going to help him. And I think Ed Donatel is a very, very good coach. And with his line coaches, I think they're going to get a bit more out of Bradbury. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 or top 15 center, but I think he's going to show improvements. And I think that he will end up with a new contract here.
Okay, interesting. So you actually think he'll kind of prove something this season and then even earn a new deal for 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, I think he'll prove he's adequate.
Okay.
I think
that's all I could ask for at this point, right? I mean, that's a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
My goodness. Jimmy, how about you, man? What do you think about the offensive line? Do you feel that there was maybe a miscalculation there? Do you think it's a safe assumption to kind of roll with Garrett Bradbury? What are your thoughts on the line?
I feel more confident than in previous years. Obviously, the tackles are locked down. We hope Ezra Cleveland's look decent. Ingram, hopefully, it's a rookie. You just got to hope for the best with him and hope the development's there. The center position's the one we always come back to. the whole J.C. Treader thing coming out yesterday with his retirement and all that. And, I think it was just a few hours after that, there was a press conference with Kevin O'Connell and, J.C. saying one thing about calling the Vikings, and then Kevin's coming back out saying if he did call, him and Kwesi had no idea. So, that's a tough position. If we could have gotten him in here, I would have loved that. It just sucks that he's in that position as NFLPA president. Don't know if that's the reason. And to me, that's concerning because it's like, how much do you weigh him being the NFLPA president and, maybe there's issues there versus just winning ball games. He's top 5 graded center by PFF. Get the guy in here. We'll find out.
You would hope that he wasn't like blackballed from the league because of his PA role. Like, I mean, and that's unfortunately, like, that was Judd's theory from the get-go. And, I think Phil and I kind of both scoffed at that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, that can't be it. But, that's kind of what his claim to fame or claim of the reason is. And, if the guy can play, which he can, I think that's what's so mind-boggling. It's not like his career completely hit a nosedive last season. Like, he has been a top 5, top 10 pass protector at center. And Garrett Bradbury has arguably been the worst starting center in pass protection since he debuted. So it's a big gamble. And with the offense not cracking the top 5, the top 10, like we really have wanted to the last few years, and this year, like it absolutely should if it's schemed appropriately under Kevin O'Connell. And if it's still flirting, in that 12 to 15 range, which is where it's been the last 2 seasons, you can probably point to the offensive line, the interior of it, as the reason that offense didn't take its next step to being a top 5 offense. So I think if there's going to be some revisionist history from Kwesi's and KOC's side of what we could have done in 2022 to be better, maybe we should have fixed this, it's probably going to be center. We'll wait and see how the season plays out. But I think the last 4 or 5 months, now that free agency has kind of settled in and we're getting closer and closer to week 1, that's the one area that I think still kind of blows my mind a little bit that they weren't able to go out and fix. What are your guys' expectations for the Vikings? I ask every fan that comes on this for Vent Line each week, and I'm always curious. It differs a little bit. So, Matt, I'll go with you. What are your expectations in the first year of Kevin O'Connell?
Okay, kind of on a daily basis, I'm flipping between super positive and kind of managing my own expectation. I think we're probably somewhere in the middle. So I'm thinking that we're probably going to go 10-7, something in that region. I think we will be an improved team, but I think that given that it is a new first year of a new coaching staff, I think there's going to be a few hiccups on the way. And unfortunately, I think the first one's going to be against the Packers week 1. I just got a feeling there's going to be, a catalogue of errors, missed snaps. That there's going to be something with holding on field goals, given that we've got rid of Berry as well. So I think there's going to be a few hiccups on the road. There's going to be a couple of games that we should have won that we don't, or should win that we don't. But I think overall we'll have a fairly good season. I think we'll make the playoffs as a wild card 10-7.
Okay. I mean, 10-7, I think would be a pretty solid first step with Kevin O'Connell. And to your point about hiccups, getting comfortable, we're all excited to see this offense roll, right? I mean, there's so many great playmakers. We want to see if Kirk takes the next step, but there probably is going to be some hiccups. It's natural that a first year head coach and how complicated NFL system is, it's not something they can just, flip a switch overnight and make it better. I would hope they start week 1 with a win, and especially against the Packers. Like there would be something so sour to start the year if you got like blown out by Green Bay at home of all places. If this was in Lambeau, I think it's a little bit of a different expectation. But it'd be great just to start the damn season with the big win against your biggest rival, kind of set the tone for 2022. Jimmy, how about you, man? What are your expectations for the Vikings this season?
Well, to jump on that, I definitely expect a week 1 win. My roommate downstairs, he's a Packers fan. Don't know how I deal with it. Yeah, it's tough. But I know if we start the football season off with a loss in week 1, I won't hear the end of it. But I'm hoping for 11 wins. I just think everything's in place and they just got to execute. I'm really, really excited for the defense. As long as everyone's healthy there, I'm anticipating, that unit could probably be trouble for other teams. Offensive side of the ball, I just want them to execute. I'm hoping to actually, see some of our skill guys in the running for some awards, hopefully. that's one of the things that we got guys who can just play ball, and the media talks about them a little bit, but we never hear anything big. One thing I've been thinking about a lot is Dalvin Cook's role in this offense. In 2017, I think when McVay took over the Rams, Gurley, who I think Cook and his, healthy Cook is better than prime Gurley. Gurley won Offensive Player of the Year that year. So, throwing the ball a lot more, getting Cook involved more that way, I think is going to really help our offense be explosive. And I just, our schedule seems pretty easy. We always find a way to blow some of those gimme games, but, I think 11 wins is pretty reasonable. Hopefully that's enough to take the division, but with Green Bay around, you never know. But, even like a top 5 seed, fine by me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bring up the point of trap games that we're probably overlooking, or games that they'll kind of botch, whether that's at home or on the road. That's probably going to happen in your schedule. Like, you don't want to be losing a game to the Jets late in December when they're hosting them. Those are the kind of games where you kind of overlook. Maybe at Miami is a game, that could be actually be a little bit more troublesome than we think. Your point about Dalvin Cook, kind of being the forgotten soldier, like on this Vikings offense. We're all talking about the wide receivers and KJ Osborne taking a next step. And, Dalvin Cook, when healthy, has been one of the best running backs in all of the NFL. And, if he can kind of morph into that prime Todd Gurley role that you were talking about, Alvin Kamara with the Saints too, can he be utilized more in the passing game? I think he certainly can. He has the explosiveness to do so. So 10 wins, 11 wins for Matt and Jimmy. I like it. I think that'd be a really solid first step for the Vikings in 2022. Boys, before we wrap up here on Vent Line, any last takes? Anyone you want to shout out to before we wrap up? Matt, I'll go to you.
I'd just like to say thank you to you guys. Having you guys, broadcasting during the pandemic was invaluable to a lot of people. Everyone was stuck at home, and you guys provided some much needed and light relief during the pandemic. And I'd just like to say thank you to my partner Christina and my children Henry and Emmy, because they have to put up with me sitting on the sofa drinking beers at 3 or 4 in the morning, watching all the NFL games coming in. They kind of really are patient with me on that. So thank you to them.
Awesome. Jimmy, how about you, man? Outside of your Packers roommate that we don't have to talk about anymore, and you want to shout out here?
That's tough. Definitely, even though it's been a painful existence as a Vikings fan, I thank my dad for, really getting me into the Vikings, sports in general, as well as my girlfriend. She definitely, she's gotten used to my Sunday routine of typically the Vikings are playing at noon Central. I'm watching that game at noon. 3 o'clock game, no interest, so I'll just fall asleep for the rest of the day until Sunday Night Football. And she deals with that every week and hasn't complained too much. So you got to give her a shout out.
Yeah, the wives, the spouses, even for Matt, the children, they're all at the expense of these loyal Vikings fans here. And from Matt's side, at 3 or 4 in the morning with the time difference, oof, that's got to be it. So are you waking up like what, at 1 or 2 a.m. for those games if it's a noon game?
No, I'm drinking all the way through.
Drinking all the way through.
I'll go to the pub and then come back and just sit down, crash on the sofa for 4 or 5 hours, have a few Bud Lights or whatever it might be. Surly if I could get it. Just watch through and just start work a little bit later the next day.
It's kind of more beneficial when they're playing like a night game here in the States, because then at least it's somewhat at a respectable time for you to start drinking and watching the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, to be honest, it doesn't matter what time. I've got Game Pass, so I just watch all of them.
Nice.
Everything goes on hold when football's on, and unfortunately the family has to deal with that.
Yeah, that's right. Matt, Jimmy, thank you guys for coming on Vikings Vent Line. Matt, please come on if you'd like from the time change during the Vikings season. Jimmy, same thing. We'll be ready to roll here in a couple weeks on Vikings Vent Line with Mackie and Judd. Excited for that to get going here. Hit the subscribe button for daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment. This has been Vikings Vent Line, where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.